This morning, I stood in front of my closet, and my eyes landed on a pair of soft beige linen pants. I didn't reach for them. I just looked, and I thought to myself, when was the last time I felt truly beautiful in something simple like this? My name is Margaret Lane. I'm 68 years old, and I still love fashion, but not the kind you find in magazines or flashy store windows anymore. My kind of fashion has become quieter, softer, more honest. I know you've already seen the title of this video, How to Wear Wide Pants at 60 Plus and Still Look Amazing. And yes, we'll talk about clothes today, but truly this isn't just about pants. It's about remembering yourself, gently. If you've been feeling a little lost in fashion lately, like you don't see yourself in anything that's in right now, come sit with me a while. I want to tell you a story about Linda. She's 64, petite, round in the middle, the kind of woman who always smiles when she talks, but keeps her head down when she walks into a clothing store. I remember the first time we met, she said to me, "Margaret, I hate shopping. I don't know how to dress like me anymore." We didn't start by pulling clothes. We started with tea, with small questions. What did you used to love wearing? Is there something you've kept all these years, even if you never wear it? And then she told me about a pair of wide-leg pants, soft gray linen. She used to wear them when visiting her husband at the nursing home. "He said I looked like the wind wanted to follow me," she laughed. So we found something similar. Linen, easy through the waist, not tight anywhere. When she slipped them on and looked in the mirror, she stood there a long time, then whispered, "This is me. I don't need to fix a thing." And maybe that's all this video hopes to do. Help you see yourself again, in something simple but true. Why wide pants are not just pants. I was folding laundry the other afternoon, the kind of slow, quiet chore I've come to enjoy more with age, and I held up a pair of wide-leg pants I hadn't worn in weeks, just a soft gray linen, nothing fancy. But I paused, and I thought, these aren't just pants anymore. They're how I breathe. You see, there's something I've noticed again and again, in dressing rooms, in phone calls with old clients, in quiet walks with friends who used to love getting dressed and now don't. At some point, fashion became tight, loud, rushed. It started asking us to shrink, to squeeze, to perform, and many of us quietly stepped away, not because we stopped caring, but because we stopped recognizing ourselves in it. But wide pants, they move differently. They don't pull or pinch. They don't expect your waist to be what it once was, or your stride to be quick. They simply flow with you, as if to say, you are enough, just as you are today. I remember Joyce, a woman I worked with about 5 years ago, recently widowed, quiet, elegant in her way. She walked into my little studio in a stiff pair of jeans that didn't quite fit, and a cardigan buttoned all the way to her chin. She said, "I feel like I've disappeared, Margaret. I don't know how to dress when no one's looking at me anymore." We didn't talk about style at first. We talked about absence, about learning how to take up space again, not in a loud way, but in a peaceful one. Later that day, I suggested a pair of soft navy wide-leg trousers. She hesitated, then said softly, "It's been so long since something moved with me." When she walked across the room, I saw her posture shift. Her steps slowed, but there was grace in them. She wasn't trying to look younger. She was allowing herself to feel present again. That's the beauty of wide pants. They don't try to hide your story. They hold it, gently. They are comfort, yes, but they are also quiet confidence, ease, dignity, and for many of us, after years of rushing, striving, losing, starting over, that kind of ease is not just welcome, it's necessary. We don't wear wide pants just for style. We wear them for the woman we are still becoming. Tell me, do you have a piece of clothing like that? One that lets you exhale? Let's keep going. Because next, I'd love to show you how to choose the right pair of wide pants. Not just by the label, but by the life you live. The art of choosing your wide pants. It was early spring when I visited my friend Elaine at her little house by the lake. We were sitting on the porch watching the wind move through the reeds, and she said something that stayed with me. "I don't know how to dress for the life I have now, Margaret." She didn't mean fancy clothes or trends. She meant this new chapter: retirement, slower mornings, softer plans. She wasn't commuting anymore. No meetings, no schedules, just quiet days filled with gardening, cooking for herself, sometimes walking down to the bookstore if the weather was kind. "The clothes I used to wear don't feel like mine anymore," she said, "but I don't want to feel sloppy either." And I understood. At a certain point, choosing clothes isn't about style. It's about belonging to your own life again. That's where wide pants come in. But not just any wide pants, the right pair, for your body, your rhythm, your season of living. And choosing them is an art, a soft one. Start with how you move. Do you walk often? Do you sit in the garden? Bend down to pick up grandkids or books or herbs from the ground? Then you'll want something that moves with you. Linen, jersey knit, soft cotton with a little stretch. Something that forgives the knees, the hips, the curve of your belly after a warm lunch. Then think of your climate. My clients in Arizona often choose light cotton or gauzy fabrics. Women in Michigan or upstate New York lean toward ponte or soft wool blends for cooler days. Elaine, by her lake, loved a pale blue pair in tencel. "Feels like air," she said, smiling as she twirled on her porch like a girl. And now, your shape. Not numbers, but your true outline. If your waist has softened, look for elastic backs or drawstrings. Not as a compromise, but as kindness. If you're petite, try a cropped hem that stops at the ankle, so the pants don't wear you. If your legs are strong, celebrate that with a fluid fabric that sways when you walk. But more than anything, choose with tenderness. There is no right pant that fits every body. There is only the one that fits your body, your life, and your sense of peace. Try them on at home. Walk around. Sit down. Ask yourself, do I feel free in this? Not, do I look thin? Or, is this stylish? Just, do I feel like I can be me in this? I once helped a woman named June, 70, newly divorced, starting fresh. She had been told for decades to dress modestly, practically, appropriately. So when she slipped into a pair of cream wide-leg trousers with a soft elastic waist and a gentle drape, she looked at me with wide eyes and whispered, "I didn't know I was allowed to feel this elegant." And I said, "You always were. You just forgot for a while." Style after 60 isn't about what looks good on paper. It's about what feels like home when you put it on. Tell me, have you found a pair like that yet? The kind that makes you want to move, slowly, confidently, in your own rhythm? Now that we know how to choose with care, let's gently look at the missteps we sometimes make. Not out of vanity, but out of fear. Because next, I'll share a few quiet reminders on what not to do when wearing wide pants and how to dress with trust again. 4 mistakes we make when we stop trusting our style. Last week, I saw Ruth at the post office. She was standing in line, holding a small envelope, looking down at her feet. She wore a navy sweatshirt that hung past her hips, a pair of stiff jeans she kept tugging at, and those gray walking shoes I remember her wearing 3 summers ago. When she saw me, she smiled, that quick, warm smile that disappears just as fast as it comes. And she said, "I know, Margaret. I look like I've given up." And I just shook my head and said gently, "No, my dear, you look like someone who's been carrying a lot." Because I've seen it so many times. In the grocery store, at church, in my own mirror on tired days. We don't suddenly lose our sense of style. It fades quietly, when the world around us changes faster than we can keep up. When the children move out. When the work ends. When our bodies shift in ways we didn't expect. Or when we just want the day to be a little softer, a little easier. And one day becomes a year, and suddenly none of our clothes feel like they belong to us anymore. And that's when we start making quiet mistakes. Not mistakes in fashion, mistakes in faith. Not trusting that we still deserve to feel beautiful. not trusting that the mirror could still offer something kind, not trusting that style could still be a part of who we are, even now. The first thing I often see is mistake number one, hiding in oversized everything. We tell ourselves it's comfort. A big shirt, long cardigan, loose pants. We wrap ourselves in fabric like a shield. But I've learned, over and over again, that too much softness outside often comes from too much hurt inside. When we feel invisible, we dress as if we don't want to be seen. But comfort doesn't mean disappearing. It means choosing pieces that let us rest without losing shape, that whisper grace, not exhaustion. Style isn't about squeezing into something too tight, but it's not about vanishing either. Then comes mistake two, holding on to clothes that no longer fit the life we live. The tailored blazer from your office days, the jeans you used to love before your hips changed, the pencil skirt from your 50th birthday dinner. They sit in the closet, untouched but not forgotten, as if we're afraid to say goodbye. But there's a quiet grief in wearing clothes from a chapter that's closed, and there's deep freedom in choosing something that speaks to where you are now. Even if that place is quieter, slower, gentler. You deserve clothes that match the rhythm of this season, whether it's gardening, sitting by a sunny window, holding a grandchild, or simply making soup on a rainy afternoon. Let go of the pieces that ask you to be someone you no longer are. You're not going backward. You're becoming. Mistake number three, following rules that were never really meant for us. You can't wear wide pants if you're short. No white after Labor Day. Dark colors are slimming. At your age, keep it simple. I've heard them all. I followed a few myself when I was younger. Rules passed down like hand-me-downs from a world that didn't quite understand women like us. But the truth is, those rules weren't written for our lives. They weren't written for bodies that have held babies and carried grief. They weren't written for hearts that have started over more than once. And they certainly weren't written for women who've lived long enough to know that a little blush pink in November might just be the thing that saves the day. You don't need permission. You need presence. And then, perhaps the hardest one, mistake four, believing that style is about looking younger. This idea has lingered like perfume from a bottle that should have been thrown away long ago. The idea that to look good, we must chase youth. But what if the goal isn't to look young, but to look like ourselves, fully, freely, beautifully? What if it's not about turning heads, but about standing still and feeling at peace in our skin? I once asked a client what she wanted to feel when she got dressed in the morning. She said, "I just want to feel like I still matter." That stayed with me, because style, at its best, is not a performance. It's a remembering. It's the way we come home to ourselves. I remember Camila, 72, newly widowed, unsure of everything. She hadn't worn a dress in over 15 years. She said to me, "I don't like what's happened to my arms." I didn't correct her. I just listened. And then I showed her a tunic with sleeves that grazed her elbows and moved like wind. We paired it with wide-legged trousers in a soft, forgiving cream. When she tried them on, she didn't smile. She stood quietly. And then, after a moment, she said, "I didn't know I could still feel like this." And maybe that's what this is all about. Not fixing ourselves, not hiding, not proving, just dressing in a way that reminds us we are still here, we are still whole, and we are still allowed to feel beautiful. When we dress like we trust ourselves again, the world doesn't just see the clothes. It sees the woman who's come back to herself. Have you noticed any of these patterns in your own life lately? Have you been dressing to hide or dressing to return? Take your time. There's no shame here, just small steps back toward yourself. Now that we've gently uncovered the things that hold us back, let's move forward. Because next, I'd love to show you how wide pants, simple as they seem, can walk with you through life's real, tender moments. Not just special occasions, but quiet mornings, family visits, solo afternoons. The moments that ask us to show up, not as someone else, but as who we truly are. Shall we keep going? Dressing for real moments. not occasions. This morning, I took my coffee out to the garden. The light was still soft, and the air had that cool hush that only happens before 8 a.m. I wasn't going anywhere. I had no plans, but I still chose to wear my wide-leg linen pants, the cream ones with the soft waistband and that gentle sway when I walk. Not because anyone would see me, just because I wanted to feel a little more like myself. And I think that's something we don't talk about enough. We've been taught, for most of our lives, to dress for something, for Sunday service, for a holiday dinner, for a job interview, for a wedding, for the neighbor's funeral. As if style is reserved for the outside world, for the moments where we're expected to show up polished, prepared, appropriate. But what about the quiet, private moments? What about the mornings when it's just you and the kettle, or the days when you drive out alone to pick up groceries and listen to your favorite songs in the car? I've come to believe that those in-between moments, they matter just as much. There was a woman I used to work with. Her name was Iris. 71, tall, always wore muted colors. After her husband passed, she told me, "I've been living in sweatpants. I don't even know why I have a closet anymore." We didn't rush to change that. We started slowly. One pair of soft, black, wide-leg trousers, a navy knit blouse, something she could wear while doing the crossword or walking to the mailbox. A few weeks later, she wrote me a note in beautiful cursive that said, "I wore the pants today just to water my plants, but for a moment, I didn't feel like a widow. I just felt present." That's the shift, isn't it? Dressing not for the world, but for yourself. Not for attention, but for alignment. Because what you wear when no one's looking still speaks. It tells your body, you're worth honoring. It tells your mind, today matters, even if it's ordinary. And it tells your heart, you're allowed to feel beautiful, even in silence. Maybe it's a pair of wide pants and a light cotton blouse. Maybe it's a scarf that reminds you of your sister. Maybe it's a pendant you haven't worn since your 40th anniversary, and today you decide to wear it. Just because. These small choices, they build a kind of quiet dignity that no one can take from you. Style, at this stage in life, becomes less about being seen and more about being felt. And I promise you, the softness you offer yourself in private moments will carry you with more grace into the ones that are public. You don't have to save your favorite clothes for a special occasion. The moment you wake up and choose to be fully yourself, that's the occasion. I wore my silk scarf once just to make soup. No one saw it but me. But I stirred that pot like someone who still believed in beauty. We don't dress for the calendar. We dress for the life we're living, one quiet moment at a time. Do you have an outfit you save for someday? What would happen if you wore it tomorrow just for you? And speaking of quiet dignity, let's talk next about something that's often overlooked. The power of accessories and small touches to complete a look, not to impress, but to ground us. A bag, a belt, a scarf, a shoe, not as decoration, but as a reflection of who we are becoming. Shall we continue? Style, after 60, is an act of courage. Yesterday afternoon, I was out walking near the rose garden at the edge of town. There's a bench there I like. Shaded just enough, always a bit cooler than the path. I sat down for a moment and saw a woman walking slowly up the gravel path. She was maybe in her early 70s. She wore a pale yellow blouse, soft trousers, and a wide-brimmed straw hat with a satin ribbon tied gently under her chin. She walked as if she wasn't rushing to be anywhere. Just walking, present. And I thought to myself, that's courage. Because somewhere along the way, society stopped showing us what that kind of woman looks like. The one who dresses not to impress, but to remain visible. And the truth is, style after 60 takes more courage than people think. Not because we need the approval, but because we have to walk through all the noise that says, you've had your time, and still choose to show up with softness, with strength, with self-respect. It takes courage to put on something beautiful when you feel like the world has stopped looking. It takes courage to wear color when grief is still heavy in your chest. It takes courage to buy the pants that fit your body now. Not the one you had before the surgeries, before the baby weight stayed, before life shifted your shape. I remember my client Denise, 67, recently retired, and still figuring out who she was without the office, the heels, the schedule. She came to my studio with a bag of clothes she'd worn for the last 10 years. Mostly gray, mostly stiff. She said, "I don't want to look silly trying something new, but I also don't want to feel like I've vanished." I handed her a pair of deep olive wide-leg pants and a soft ivory tunic with delicate buttons down the back. She stared at them. Then she said, "What if someone thinks I'm trying too hard?" And I told her, "What if no one's watching, and you still get to feel good anyway?" Because that's what courage is. Dressing not for attention, but for truth, for joy, for reclamation, for the woman who still lives inside you, even after all the titles and roles have faded. We've been taught to shrink, in voice, in space, in fabric. But every time you put on something that lets you take up space again, not loudly but with quiet certainty, you're telling the world, "I'm still here. I still matter. I still want to feel like myself." And there is nothing silly about that. After 60, style isn't about standing out. It's about not disappearing. Tell me, when was the last time you wore something just because it made you feel brave? Let's keep going, my dear, because next, I want to talk about the little finishing touches, the scarf that makes you feel radiant, the shoes that make your walk a little taller, not because they're trendy, but because they speak the same language as your spirit. Accessories, as an act of intention, not decoration. Shall we? This doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to wait for an invitation or a reason or a better day. Maybe today's the day. Maybe this moment, quiet, ordinary, yours, is the perfect one to slip into a pair of wide pants that breathe with you. Not to go anywhere special, just to step outside, water the garden, feel the breeze move through the fabric as you move through your life. Because style at this age isn't about dressing up, it's about showing up, gently, fully, truthfully. And if you've forgotten how good it feels to wear something that moves with your body and honors your pace, then let today be the soft reminder. Try the pants, wear the blouse, tie the scarf, even if it's just to sit with a book on the porch. And maybe, just maybe, text an old friend, one you used to dress up with for nothing more than a walk around the block. Send her a message, something like, "I still love getting dressed, do you?" Because chances are, she's still in there. The woman who once wore lipstick to buy milk. The one who laid out her outfits the night before just because it made her feel whole. If this video made you smile, even just a little, share it with someone who used to dress up just to go out for milk. She's still there. She's just waiting to be called back. Let it flow. Let yourself be seen. And I'll see you soon.